This is FilmBookCast.
FilmBookCast.
FilmBookCast, the official podcast of FilmBook. Get ready for the latest in film news, TV show news, and theatrical reviews. FilmBook's podcast starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to FilmBookCast, the official podcast of FilmBook. My name is Chris Banks. If you're tuning in to FilmBookCast for the first time, what I do on this podcast is discuss the latest film and TV show news, as well as review an in-theater film. You can find more FilmBookCast on film-book.com by using the search term FilmBookCast. You can also email us at podcast@film-book.com. with FilmBookCast in the subject line. Let's jump right into it this week. This week in streaming news, HBO Max acquires Revelation Entertainment's The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain. HBO Max picked up the exclusive streaming rights to the award-winning, critically acclaimed film The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain. The movie will stream on November 19th, the 10-year anniversary of Kenneth Chamberlain Sr.'s death. The David Mitchell-directed movie is based on true stories of an elderly African-American veteran with bipolar disorder who was killed by the White Plains, New York police during a welfare check after his medical alert is accidentally activated. Through a series of unfortunate circumstances and the overly aggressive policing tactics that make the news on an all-too-frequent basis, the life of Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. ended at the hands of those sworn to protect and serve. The movie is produced by Mitchell and Enrico Natali of Redbird Entertainment. Our goal all along, the director said, was to be able to ask important questions about how our criminal justice system treats people of color, people in low-income areas, and people living with mental health challenges. Kenneth Chamberlain Jr. said, "It's always been bigger than my dad. It's about the lives that have been lost in this pandemic. Watch for the film to start streaming on HBO Max November 19th. Some more streaming news from this week. Lucifer reclaims the viewership throne in Nielsen's latest streaming report. The show recently premiered its 6th and final season on Netflix, and it continues to be a major viewership hit. Netflix's Lucifer, the popular fantasy series that premiered its 6th and final season on September 10th, was the most viewed original streaming show of the week. And it's no surprise to fans of Lucifer, as Lucifer has been a mainstay on the Nielsen weekly ratings and regularly nearly topped the reports when the show's season 5 premiered earlier this year. Lucifer nearly doubled the second place show, which was Clickbait. The last bit of streaming news we'll talk about this week is a new release on Peacock, Halloween Kills. The nightmare isn't over as unstoppable killer Michael Myers escapes from Laurie Strode's trap to continue his ritual bloodbath. Injured and taken to a hospital, Laurie fights through the pain as she inspires residents of Haydenfield, Illinois, to rise up against Myers. Taking matters into their own hands, the Strode women and other survivors form a vigilante mob to hunt down Michael and end his reign of terror once and for all. Directed by David Gordon Green and produced by Blumhouse Pictures, Halloween Kills is available to stream on Peacock now. That's it for streaming news. Let's switch up gears and head on over to some film trailers for this week. Another film from Blumhouse Pictures is quite a movie called The Black Phone. It'll be released February 4th of next year. It stars Ethan Hawke, Mason Thames, Madeline McGraw, James Ranson, Jeremy Davies, E. Roger Mitchell, and many others. It's a supernatural horror film directed by Scott Derrickson. After 5 children go missing in a suburban Colorado town in the 1970s, Finney Shaw is soon to become the 6th victim when he is kidnapped by a serial killer and trapped inside of a soundproof basement. Finding a disconnected phone, Shaw discovers its ability to transmit the voices of the killer's previous victims, who try to help him escape. Ethan Hawke looks amazing in this film. It's based on the London After Midnight, which was done in 1927. Check out the trailer for The Black Phone. It'll come out February 4th of next year. Keeping up the Halloween theme, considering the month we're in, another movie trailer that caught my eye was Scream. They're redoing it. Tyler Gillett and Matt Bettelli-Olpin will come out with a new Scream. 25 years after a streak of brutal murders shocked the quiet town of Woodsboro, California, a new killer dons the ghost mask face and begins targeting a group of teenagers to resurrect secrets from the town's deadly past. Scream is going to come out January 14th. It has everyone who you expect: Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Neve Campbell. Introduces new characters: Jenna Ortega, Dylan Minnette, Melissa Barrera. Check out the trailer for Scream. It looks really good. It'll come out in theaters January 14th. The last film trailer we'll look at this week, ahead of Marvel's Eternals, which is coming out November 5th, they released the last official teaser clip. And I don't know about you, but I love Chloe Zhao, and I'm even more intrigued based on this clip. Check out the newest teaser trailer for Eternals. It'll come out in theaters November 5th. That's it for movie trailers. Now let's check out some TV trailers. Doctor Who Flux releases first look trailer for 13th season, spotlighting guest actors and monsters. It wouldn't be Doctor Who without monsters, and even though the show is now known as Doctor Who Flux, it promises more creatures great and small. The trailer for the show's 13th season is out now. Check it out. It reveals a first look at the guest actors and monsters that will be featured across the 6-episode series. The character names of the guests and the monster names, as well as who will be playing them, will be announced at a later date. The new season of Doctor Who will start streaming on October 31st. Check out the trailer now. Another TV trailer that caught my eye this week is a pretty unconventional trailer to cover, but I think it's going to be fun. On Cartoon Network, there's a show that's going to come out that's called Harry Potter Hogwarts Tournament of Houses. Helen Mirren is hosting, and they just released the first trailer. It's a competition series, quizzing fans competing for the title of House Cup Champion. It comes 20 years after the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. The 4-part competition event will begin on November 28th, and a new episode will be debuting every Sunday through December 19th. Check out Helen Mirren in the teaser trailer now. The last TV trailer we'll look at this week, fans of Netflix's Big Mouth are excited to see the new trailer for the upcoming season, which returns on November 5th. The series has always been about the real roller coaster of physical and emotional changes that accompany puberty in middle school. And in the trailer, love is in the air at Briggerton Middle School. Andrew reveals that Nick has got it bad for Jessie until she publicly rejects him, sending him spiraling into heartbreak. Jesse and Allie's increasingly close friendship infuriates Missy when it threatens the dynamics of the friend group. The end of the trailer teases up a switch-up from Big Mouth. Fred Armisen, Jordan Peele, and all the regular guest stars are back. Each of the 10 episodes will run 30 minutes long. Check out the trailer now. The Season 5 will debut November 5th. Now let's head on over to some TV news. Some CBS news: Be Positive creator and co-showrunner Marco Panett has left the show. Chuck Lorre and Jim Patterson will continue to run the show, but it returned for the second season this week, and it was inspired by Panett's own personal experience. The series stars Annalee Ashford and Thomas Middleditch as Gina and Drew. He's a newly divorced dad faced with finding a kidney donor, and she's a rough-around-the-edges woman from his past who volunteers her own. The second season kicked off with the pair adjusting to life after surgery, and Drew developing romantic feelings as Be Positive took a major creative turn for Season 2, away from its original premise. The changes were introduced in the opener when it was revealed that one of the residents at Valley Hills retirement home had died, leaving Gina $48 million. She uses the money to buy the assisted living facility. Anthony Higgins and many others co-star in the series. Some more TV news from this week. Fans of The White Lotus will be excited as Jennifer Coolidge is returning for Season 2. HBO's new dark comedy standout, Jennifer Coolidge, is returning for Season 2. She was a fan favorite and received critical praise and Emmy buzz for her role as Tanya McCoy in Season 1. She's a wealthy and stable woman recovering from the death of her mother, and she's traveling alone to the hotel, looking for love and in a desperate need for a massage. Season 2 will follow a largely different group of vacationers as they book their stay at another White Lotus property and settle in temporarily among its inhabitants. Exciting news for fans of The last bit of TV news we'll check out this week comes from Amazon. Kathleen Robertson joins the 6th and final season of The Expanse. She's set for a key role in the final season of Amazon's popular sci-fi drama The Expanse. The show is set in the future where humanity has colonized the solar system and the people of Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt have long been in opposition with one another. When the crew of the Rocanti uncovers an alien technology, a vast conspiracy begins to emerge, one that will bring the solar system to the brink of war. The Expanse is a high-action sci-fi adventure that explores the depth of humanity against the far-spanning reaches of a known universe. We'll keep up with news as they release dates for the 6th and final season of The Expanse. That's it for TV news. Now let's head on over to some film news from this week. You can stop the presses. You don't have to worry, because Michael Caine is not going to retire after bestsellers. The 88-year-old actor's representatives refuted the reports of his retirement. We haven't seen the last of Michael Caine on screen after all. He made waves last week in an interview when he said that the recently released comedy Bestsellers would be his last film. Funnily enough, it has turned out to be my last part, really, Caine said, referencing Bestsellers during an interview with Simone Mayo. The legendary actor said, "Because I haven't worked for 2 years and I have a spine problem which affects my legs, so I can't walk very well. And I also wrote a couple of books which were published and were successful, so I'm now not an actor, I'm a writer." Caine started acting in 1950 and he's racked up over 130 film credits. He's won Oscars for his turn in Hannah and Her Sisters and The Cider House Rules. He plays a cranky author in the aforementioned Bestsellers, which was released in September, and it's great to know that this will not be the last time we see him on screen. God love Michael Caine. Some more film news from this week. It's a throwback week as Mel Gibson is set to star in an action thriller called Hot Seat. He will star along Chad Michael Murray. It's about a man who is attempting to defuse a bomb. It's set to begin production November 1st in Mexico, and it's being produced by Lionsgate. It tells the story of an ex-hacker who was forced to break into the banking institutions by an anonymous man who has planted a bomb under his car at an office. Mel Gibson plays the man who is trying to enter the booby-trap building to get the young man off of the hot seat. We'll wrap up this week in film news with some more exciting news. The Batman newest trailer will debut this weekend, and we got a tease of what Robert Pattinson and Paul Dano look like in costume. It's shaping up to be a big weekend for Batman fans. Ahead of the new trailer, Warner Brothers released a pair of posters for the film. We see Robert Pattinson, who is the new Bruce Wayne, in a rain-soaked silhouette in this gorgeous poster, and Paul Dano plays the Riddler, and we haven't seen the Riddler on screen since Jim Carrey did a comic version in 1995's Batman Forever. But this new interpretation of the iconic villain is grounded in a more gritty and grounded feel. Check out the posters, they're stunning. The Batman will be released in theaters March 4th of next year. That's it for film news. All right, time for this week's movie review. For this week's movie review, we're going to check out Venom, Let There Be Carnage. It's the second Venom. Eddie Brock is still struggling to coexist with the shape-shifting extraterrestrial Venom. When deranged serial killer Cletus Kasady also becomes a host to an alien symbiote, Brock and Venom must put aside their differences to stop his reign of terror. Woody Harrelson was a fantastic choice for the villain of this really well-made bad movie. As with most reviews, I won't spoil what happens, but I'll try to talk about it in a way that gives you a sense of what happened. The first Venom was a bad movie. I don't think that it really had a point to exist. I like the dynamic between Hardy and Venom. I love the romance and the love story and just the humanity between the two characters. That's a really cool story to flesh out, but the first movie was really bad and there was really no point to make it. Venom 2 is better than that because Woody is a great choice for a villain. His look is sharp. He brings a certain sinisterness. He's a tremendous actor. So he's just a great choice for this role. And because of the different choices between the second and the first, it made the second one much better. Sometimes Tom Hardy seems, and it could be the character too, but he just seems uninterested sometimes in what he's doing. And again, it is the character sometimes, but it also speaks to a deeper issue with the franchise, in my opinion. The film definitely focuses on all the aspects of the first Venom that worked, and it really just enhances all the aspects that worked in the first Venom. The second one enhances, and it spends more time fleshing them out, like the Eddie and Venom relationship. And we've never really looked at the romance between Eddie and Venom, but the second film does a pretty good job at that, and it's really funny sometimes, because there is a breakup scene in the film, and I don't want to give too much away, but it's really cool what Venom does when he gets away from Tom. There's a great scene where Venom is at a nightclub partying, and he gets on the stage and he picks up the microphone, and it's just really cool what goes down in that scene. I don't want to spoil what happens, because it's a really cool scene. It's a really funny scene, but it also gives you great context in Venom's character, which, relating to the first movie, that's why the second film is much better, because it gives us a lot of context and a lot of deeper definitions and meanings for who Venom is, what the relationship is between him and Eddie, what Eddie's feeling is toward Venom. That's what this movie does a tremendous job at, is kind of fleshing out the humanity within a, anti-hero comic book story. That's really what Venom 2 does in a really good way that I really don't want to brush over, because I'm not so sure the movie's that good. But this aspect of the movie is very good, and I wish they maybe the third one will be a lot better, because the ingredients are there. The film's not long. It's very short. Things happen way too fast, and maybe other people like the pace of it, but it's a very quick movie. If it's 90 minutes, it's not many minutes over 90 minutes, which is it's a good thing, but it's also, I just think that some of these stories are too quick, especially the romance between Eddie and Venom, and the way that this movie does it is really well done, because it gives you a lot of context as the audience, and it makes you feel deeper for Venom, which is interesting for an anti-hero. But that's what's so interesting about these universe movies, is you're digesting anti-heroes or heroes, or these comics that we've had in our head for our whole lives, and we're kind of seeing them play out in real time in a unique way, and it's really cool. That's the part of Venom 2 that I really love, and I really appreciate how they made this one much better than the first one, because the first one was a hot mess. This one, not so much of a hot mess. There's great scenes in this movie. Because Eddie has controlled Venom to the point where they have chickens in his apartment so Venom can eat the brains that he needs. But when the film picks up the story, there's only 2 chickens left. And there's a great scene of Eddie telling Venom that he can just eat the chickens, and Venom goes, no, those 2 are friends. And it's just that kind of humanity and humor and love that we see play out on screen in Venom 2 is why it's so much better than the first movie. I'm not a big fan of some of these camera angles. Some of them are very artsy and very, high-end. And maybe it's just the comic book universe that kind of turns actors into objects. But there's a big aspect of the film that I don't like, that I won't really go into here, because it's only relative to me. So I think overall, Venom 2 is a really well-made, okay movie. I know I said at the beginning it's a bad movie, but after hearing myself out loud, I realized that it's actually much better than Part 2. And it kind of gets me excited for Part 3, because there is going to be a Part 3. They leave you with that certainty. But I'm really satisfied with what I've learned in this film compared to the first one, because the first one I walked away entirely confused. This one I have a lot of answers given to me, which I appreciate. And again, Woody Harrelson is a tremendous choice for a villain. Andy Serkis did a pretty good job with this film. I would give it a 6 out of 10. If you're a fan of the universe, if you're deeply invested into it, then you probably love this film, because it's really funny and cool and quick and sharp and flashy. But if you're not as emotionally invested in the universe, then there's definitely critiques about the film. But overall, much better than the first Venom. I'm glad they made it, and it makes me excited for the third one. And it's doing well at the box office, so congratulations to Andy Serkis and everyone at Marvel and Columbia. It's grossed about $200 million so far. If you haven't seen Venom, Let There Be Carnage, it's still playing in theaters, and I hope you like it as much as I did. Thanks so much for checking us out this week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of FilmBookCast. You can find more of my work on film-book.com. Just search for Chris Banks or FilmBookCast. You can also find me on Twitter. I'm at C Banksy. That's S-E-E Banksy. I'm also on Instagram, at the Chris Banks. If you listen to this podcast on iTunes or another podcast service, please rate and review this episode. If you're listening on our YouTube channel, FilmBook Podcast, please like our video, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a comment in the comment section. It really helps other people discover our podcast. Please also becoming one of our patrons on Patreon at patreon.com/filmbook. Your support helps us create more engaging content. You'll find our Patreon link below in the description. If you want to tweet about this podcast, just use the hashtag FilmBookCast. Tune in next week for the next episode of the FilmBookCast. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you then.